Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Again, I'm very sorry we were a few minutes late. Tonight, we will kick the meeting off. We'll call the meeting to order. And first item, please, Common Clerk.
Yes, Your Worship. Tonight's agenda has a presentation at the beginning. Item 1.1 is the Heritage Award presentation for 2020.
Okay, thank you. Miss Jacqueline Hamilton, I think we're going to go to you, Commissioner of Growth and Community Development.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. This evening we celebrate the city's 2020 Heritage Awards, which are intended to recognize outstanding examples of heritage conservation in the city. Tonight's virtual Heritage Awards presentation will be delivered by Ms. Jamie Watson, who's the chair of the city's Heritage Development Board, with support from Emma Sampson, the city's Heritage Officer. I would add that in her presentation, the chair will also be speaking to another item that appears later in council's agenda, which is recommending the designation of the city's first local historic place for a property on the city's west side. And this is following the city's recent adoption of a local historic places policy in 2020. I will now turn it over to Ms. Watson to deliver tonight's award presentation, which recognizes the city's 2020 Heritage Award recipients. Thank you, Your Worship.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Jamie Watson, Chair of the Heritage Development Board, and I am pleased to present to you the Heritage Awards for 2020. These awards recognize excellence in heritage conservation, trades, and stewardship, efforts by our community to help ensure the vibrancy and longevity of St. John's past and future. I'd like to start with the acknowledgement of my fellow board members, who've been dedicated in their roles over one of the more interesting years in recent memory. It's been almost a full year since we've been together in person, but we've persevered in meeting regularly and helping to continue the work of the city's Heritage Conservation Service. For 2020, the Heritage Development Board would like to recognize the following projects: the storefront rehabilitation of 62 Water Street. In a special focus on local business signage, the projecting signs at the Art Warehouse, Juniper, and Obscurity. Recognizing conservation trades and skills, this year's Commitment to Craft Award is given to Paul and Rena Chase. And lastly, through a motion of Common Council, the Heritage Development Board recommends designation of 152 Watson Street, the Peters House, as a local historic place. While we're unable to have our event in person, we welcome all those recognized who are watching tonight, and we look forward to delivering the physical awards to the recipients soon. So for our first award, we draw attention to 62 Water Street. At the western edge of Trinity Royal, 62 Water Street has had a new life breathed into it by owner Jennifer Irving and her team. With the clean yet dramatic use of an all-black paint scheme, a new entry, and restored brickwork, this unique two-story property has transformed into a warm and inviting gallery. The Heritage Award for Storefront Rehabilitation is awarded to 62 Water Street, and in particular, its owner, Jennifer Irving, architect, Signage of Studio Shirshakar, contractors Legacy Masonry, Avant-Garde Construction Management, and Artisan Group. The Heritage Development Board chose to give a special focus this year to local business signage. 2020 was a very challenging year, particularly for newly opened small businesses, and we're pleased that they have shown resilience in the face of truly unpredictable circumstances. The three signs that the board has chosen to recognize show well-executed creative interpretations of the principles of traditional signage. First, the Art Warehouse. This projecting banner sign on Prince William Street is striking and playful. It's representative of the creative atmosphere inside. The strong contrast of black and white, along with the use of canvas, is a great example of blending traditional and modern. The Heritage Award for Local Business Signage is given to the Art Warehouse, and in particular, its business owner, Hazel Cochran, artist Pamela Pierce, designer Jeff Ramsey, and execution by Design Art Signs. The clean circle, delicate sprigs, and simple sans serif lettering of Juniper's sign is a natural reflection of the sustainable lifestyle found within. Distinct in its size and style on Prince William Street, it embodies a contemporary twist on historic signage. The Heritage Award for Local Business Signage is also given to Juniper, and in particular, its business owner, Caitlin Price, designer Chris Tompkins, and execution by Llewellyn Press. Lastly, in this category, we draw attention to obscurity shop. The triangle shape and striking colors of obscurity jump out on Germain Street and play off its sister shop, Heartbreak Boutique. It's well executed and eye-catching. The sign invites visitors into a shop as unique as the sign itself. So we recognize obscurity and award the Heritage Award for Local Business Signage to business owners Michelle Carson-Roy and Pamela Wheaton, designer Hannah Cochran, and execution by Barter Signs. The conservation of our heritage assets would be nothing without the skills and knowledge of our craftspeople. This year's Commitment to Craft Award is given to Paul and Rena Chase, whose conservation work and knowledge of traditional methods and detailing have made a lasting impact in our conservation areas. The versatility of skills and broad range of areas of expertise have helped to retain and reinstate much of the character we see in buildings across the city. The Commitment to Craft Award is given to Paul and Rena Chase. Lastly, we are pleased to present to Common Council the first property for designation as a local historic place under the recently adopted Local Historic Place Designation Policy. 152 Watson Street, also known as the Peters House, is a two-story wood-framed residence located on the Lower West Side of St. John. Designed by prominent New Brunswick architect John Cunningham and constructed circa 1843, the property represents a unique local interpretation of the Carpenter Gothic style. This can be seen in numerous surviving architectural elements, such as the elaborate exterior detailing, which includes scrollwork, barge boards, and finials, sometimes called gingerbreading, the 3 stained glass windows along the roof line, and the miniature duplicates of the roof above the entrance and windows. On the interior, the grand mahogany staircase features unique balusters carved with Anglican and Masonic symbols. The property is also noted in local and oral histories as being the location of the first surgery with anesthesia in Canada, the removal of a tumor from an arm performed by Dr. Martin H. Peters at his home practice, January 18, 1847. Dr. Peters, himself a prominent local, freeman, and militia officer, was the son of Charles Jeffrey Peters, Attorney General and member of the Executive Council for the province of New Brunswick. The Heritage Development Board's Local Historic Place Subcommittee evaluated the property, and the Heritage Development Board recommends to Common Council a motion to approve the designation of this property as a local historic place. On behalf of the Heritage Development Board, I'd like to again congratulate and recognize and thank everyone who helps to promote and preserve our city's heritage assets. Thank you very much.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for all of your work this year. It's been a very interesting work as we've all adapted to online, and I'm really pleased to see so many positive aspects of the work that you had done previously on modernizing the bylaw and the local historic places. We're seeing a result of that tonight, and congratulations again to all the winners. We wish that you were able to be here with us. So thank you for that presentation. Councillor Armstrong, did you have a comment? No.
Yeah, I just.
Oh. You muted yourself, sorry.
Couldn't read my lips again, eh?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you. Thank you. I just want to say I've been serving on this committee for 5 years. And just to let the general public know, it's done a 360. Businesses do not have to worry if they buy in the heritage area. It complements, this board has done extremely well in changing the bylaws and making it business friendly. So just remember that, all the owners that are prospective owners in the heritage area, it is not like it used to be. It's nothing like it used to be. With the leadership of Bob Boyce and now Jamie, we've made a 100% change, and business friendly is the word. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, Council, just I guess a receive and file just to formally file that. Okay, thank you, Councillor Merrithew and the Deputy Mayor. Thank you. On the question, all those in favor? Thank you. Anyone contrary-minded? Not seeing any. Thanks again for that wonderful presentation. Next item, Common Clerk, please.
Yes, Your Worship. Item 2.1 on your agenda would be the minutes of February the 8th.
Okay, moved by the deputy. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Hickey. Thank you for that. Any questions? Okay, don't see any questions on the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Thank you. The motion's carried. Next item.
Next, we have approval of agenda, and there are a number of additions that came from Committee of the Whole. I'll just go through them quickly. 17.1 is a Funday Key Option Agreement ground lease. 17.2 Funday Key Dividend Agreement. 17.3 Regional Economic Members and Funding Agreement. 17.4 is a settlement of a labor matter. 17.5 is an enterprise agreement with AWS. And 17.6 would be council vacancy resolution.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented, please? Thank you, Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. Thank you for that. On the question, all those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary-minded? Sorry, I'm not. Sometimes it's a bit slow. Councillor Sullivan, were you in favor of that motion?
No, I'm a nay, but can carry on.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, next item, Common Clerk.
Next item, Your Worship, is item 4, disclosures of conflict of interest, if there are any.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any hands or hearing any voices, so I'll say there's no declaration tonight. Okay, thank you. Next item.
Item 5 is the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Your Worship, I'll move 5.1 to 5.6 inclusive.
Thank you. Moved by the deputy, seconded by Councillor Reardon. Are you okay? Yep, thank you. And questions, Council? Councillor Reardon. I'm always confused, Councillor, because I know you always lead us with questions. So over to you, Councillor Reardon. You are muted. Okay, I'll come back to you. Did anyone else have any questions? No? Okay, we'll come back to you, Councillor Reardon. Let me see if I can.
Should be off there now. I'm fine.
There you are. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to mention 5.1, the Low Carbon Economic Fund. Samir Yamin has gotten us some help with that again. We're going to switch out the heat pumps at the TD Center, TD Station, and we're going to lower the greenhouse gases that they would produce by 30%. So he's always got something in the consent agenda for us. He just does amazing work with that. And 5.6, the adoption of the 2015 National Building, Plumbing, and Fire Codes. Finally, that's great. I do have a quick question if anybody can answer it. Then I'm assuming they go every 5 years. So we're adopting 15. When will 20 be available for adoption? And we're adopting the 2011 National Energy Codes. Like that seems like a bit of a leg. So if you wouldn't mind just giving me a really brief explanation, please, and thank you.
Ms. Poffenroth will walk us through every subsection of the building code.
No, not that detailed.
I'll put you all to sleep. Through your worship to Councillor Reardon. So the next version of the National Building Code will be 2020. It isn't out yet, but it will be available soon. And then the province would have to adopt that through the new legislation, the Building Code Administration Act. I don't expect that would be quick, and I'm not sure when they would do that, but I think we need a bit of time with the 2015 code. We, in the city of St. John, we have been used to using the 2015 code on a number of projects, but there are many municipalities in the province that haven't used it yet. So I'm sure we'll have the 2015 for a few years. As for the National Energy Code, the most recent National Energy Code is a 2017. We're not sure why the province adopted the 2011, but those are questions that we are pursuing with the provincial government right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Ms. Poffenroth. And I'll just note again, we just spoke to it, but 5.3 is the designation of local historic place for the home that we just heard about in the Heritage Awards, which is kind of neat. That's the first application, I believe, of the updated single spot designation. So thanks again to the committee for doing that work. Okay, that's the consent agenda. I don't see any other hands, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Anybody contrary minded? Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you. Next item.
Next item is members' comments, item 6.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sullivan, kick us off.
Thanks, Your Worship. Gosh, what a week for the city of St. John. Lots to talk about as the resolutions come forward later on, but I guess the only thing I will talk about is our health and some reminders for the ongoing pandemic. First of all, good work. St. John has had a few days with no new cases, so that is good. But all sorts of risk opportunity coming up. We're on the verge of March break, and we're going to have to be creative about how we entertain ourselves without getting into crowds. I guess my own personal concern, seeing a few people walk in the streets without wearing the masks. We still need to wear a mask outside. Seeing some pictures of friends out and about without masks. We still need to wear our masks. We have to stay vigilant. If you get offered the vaccine, take it. I can't wait to get poked in my arm and get my vaccine. Wear your masks. We're used to it now. We see the light at the end of the tunnel, but we can't have one of these strange variants that's new come in and ruin the party. So please wear your mask, wash your hands, socially distance, and take care of each other. Look out for your neighbors. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor. Well said. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Certainly, Councillor Sullivan said it was a big week for St. John, especially with the announcement on Friday that we had of the Funday Key agreement, and you're looking at huge amounts of money being poured in by the federal government, by the provincial government, by the municipal government as well. I think it was, you're talking like for the past year over $21 million of federal investment in that project, which is significant. So on that continued good news, I just wanted to encourage folks. I spent the weekend enjoying the fresh air. Encourage folks to do the same, especially as we continue our life in socially distanced and in the middle of a global health pandemic. Certainly myself did a bit of downhill skiing, some cross country skiing, downhill skiing. I run a protocol where every wipeout entitles me to one local craft beer in the bar afterwards. So it supports both the ski hill and our craft breweries as well, I think. Lastly, I just wanted to mention I attended the Waterloo Village Association tenants meeting, of which I am a resident of Waterloo Village today, and I just wanted to highlight quickly our amazing organizations that support our priority neighborhoods in St. John. And if you live in one of those neighborhoods, get involved. Certainly in Ward 3, there's Carleton Community Centre, Pulse in the Lower South End, and as well as Waterloo Village Association. And of course, there's Crescent Valley and the One Change in North End. So if you do live in those neighborhoods, I encourage you to get involved in them. They do incredible work and continue to support the neighborhood. I just want to mention that. That's all for me. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? So I just have a quick, I don't know if you've been following along, but I did receive a bit of a gift. I don't know if you can see. So there's a resurgence. Oh, you can't see it with my background. There's a resurgence of Fiddle Ed admiration in the city. So anonymous threads, I got a little basket delivered to my office here today, and I had a Fiddle Ed shirt delivered to my street. So it's kind of neat to see this love affair with the 1985 Canada Games mascot. I did know Fiddle Ed quite personally, so it's kind of neat. I want to thank Anonymous Threads for my Fiddle Ed shirt. And I think, as Councillor Sullivan mentioned, that there's just a lot of really great momentum happening in the city, whether it be Funday Key, the items that we're going to talk about tonight from the Finance Committee, the potential for a tax rate reduction, paying down debt, rainy day funds. We have a new city website launching, I think, tomorrow. There's just an awful lot of really hard work and great news coming out of City Hall. So I just want to say thank you to everyone that is making all of this possible, because as council, we set policy. Lots of folks do all the hard work. So thanks very much for that. Councillor Norton, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I didn't get my virtual hand up in time before you had a chance to kind of anchor those comments. But to piggyback on what Councillor Sullivan said, we've got to be creative about some of the things that we're going to do during this March break to make sure that that we're safe and we exit the March break in as good a shape as we enter it. Just to some creative things that we can do. The city's now maintaining 2 skating rinks at Lily Lake. was one. Now there's two. So really, really good work there by our city crews doing that and maintaining those. I've been out myself a couple of times, and the surfaces are in great shape. So thank you to those folks that are doing that. And also Funday Winterfest. It's going to be running virtually from January 30th to February 28th. And details about those activities can be found simply online at Funday Winterfest. So there's lots of municipal parks and things to do around our greater St. John. So get out and check those out. I did want to mention we're chock full of good news, and Your Worship, you did say something about a proposed tax rate coming from Finance Committee, and I'm pretty stoked about that. I can tell you that. That very excited about where we're going with that one. But growth at a glance, I know has been very key. And just to read this quick snippet to give folks an appreciation of where growth is going in our city of St. John, that the One Stop Development Shop has received a total of 112 building permits since November of 2020. And for reference, in case folks don't know, as a comparator, they received 45 in 2020 and 67 in 2021. We have also received 5 demolition permits and 26 plumbing permits and 48 planning applications. So by way of traffic coming into your one-stop development shop, things are looking really, really healthy. And let's continue to I guess, encourage the momentum. So that's all for me.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor. Okay, I think I didn't miss anyone for tonight. Thank you very much. Okay, next item, please, Common Clerk.
Your Worship, next item is 8.1 on the agenda, and this is a scheduled presentation. We have Mishka Jacobs, who's the Director of Community Engagement for 211NB. And I just ask Mishka if she can turn on the camera and microphone.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. You're a little bit low, but I think we can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I can speak louder.
That's perfect. Thank you, Mishka.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. Am I able to share my screen? Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Perfect.
Perfect. So my name is Mishka Jacobs. I am the Director of Community Engagement for 211 New Brunswick. 211 is currently being funded by the Government of Canada, the federal government, in partnership with the Government of New Brunswick. It is trademarked to United Way, and the United Ways of New Brunswick have been working since 2007 to bring 211 to our province. In a nutshell, 211 is the front door to help. It's an information and referral service that connects New Brunswickers to critical human, social, community, and government support. It is completely free and confidential. Our phones are answered 24/7 every single day of the year in 170 languages through interpretation services. And to date, we answer phones in less than 30 seconds.
Wow.
But really, we're the bridge between those who need help and those who can help. Sometimes knowing the resources that are out there is difficult. Sometimes navigating websites and phone calls can be difficult, and we just don't know the support that's out there. And that's where 211 wants to play a role. A disabled senior gave us a call. He was looking for home repairs, resources to help him with home repairs. And we were able to connect him to a number of programs, namely those through social development and the disability tax credit through the CRA, to name a few. And he had no idea that these resources were out there. And that's the case for many of us in the province. When we need help, we don't necessarily know where to turn or who to talk to. One of the values of 211 is when you call, you get to speak to a real human being. It's not a pre-recorded message. It's not a robot. You don't have to press 5731 and it takes you right back to the beginning. You get to speak to someone, you get to ask them questions, and they get to ask you questions. This is eliminating the stress of wading through the changing landscape of community services. And it means that we get to see your full picture. We get to dive in to what you're going through and give you the resources you need, not only for today, but for tomorrow as well. A father called on behalf of his 26-year-old daughter, and she had lost her job because of COVID and had to move back home. He was looking for resources to help her live independently in the community. And while chatting to the community navigator, he expressed concerns about her mental health, that she was receiving weekly counseling with a professional. And so the community navigator was able to ask, would you like to learn more? And he said yes. And so with one phone call about affordable housing, he was able to get the resources he needed for everything that he was concerned about. We are not crisis management or counseling. We don't offer advice, and we don't need to. There are phenomenal organizations and services in New Brunswick that specialize in just that. What we do is we offer information and referral. We'll connect you to those resources. We don't want to duplicate efforts. There's no need for that. We are the bridge between those who need help and those who can offer help. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a role to play. So a mom called us and she said that she wasn't working. She was on EI, that her husband was working, but unfortunately he was violent at home. So we immediately asked her about the safety of herself and of her children, and she said that they were doing okay. We immediately asked her after that, do you have all the resources you need for domestic violence? And she said yes, that she was working on a plan with a social worker to get her and her children out safely. What she needed from us was understanding what social assistance programs she qualified for and for food access. And so we don't need to be in crisis management or counseling. We can connect you to those very resources that you may need, and we can help support you with your other underlying needs while you go through the process of handling life's challenges. And so we really and truly believe that 2-on-1 is a complementary service to the hard work that so many organizations and services are doing right now in our province. We want to ease the burden of navigation and research for everyone, whether you're a resident of New Brunswick looking for help or an organization trying to support your clients. We want to help free staff time. We want to help free your time so that everyone gets the resources they need quickly. We're seeing a significant amount of calls in other provinces are being made by resource organizations with their clients because life's challenges are almost always complex and multifaceted. And since our launch mid-October last year, we're seeing the same thing happening here. Because rarely does one walk into a food bank and only need food. More likely, you're facing many life's challenges, and you need support with financial help, with affordable housing maybe, probably just mental health resources because you're so stressed from having to deal with it all. And 2-on-1 can help support you and connect you with the resources you need. We work with phenomenal partners, including the federal government, the provincial government, United Way of Canada, the 3 United Ways of New Brunswick. Find Help supports us with the entire system behind 2-on-1. Social Development and ESIC are very close partners with us. The St. John Human Development Council helps maintain and keep our database up to date, which is no small feat. And we work with phenomenal community organizations every single day. Our community navigators are phenomenal. They are skilled professionals with backgrounds in social work or psychology or rich experiences in community work. And before they even touch a phone, they undergo extensive training to make sure that we are providing the best service possible. And when I say extensive training, they're receiving training like crisis identification and caller de-escalation. So we don't do crisis management, but it's so important for us that we're able to identify someone in crisis and support them through the call while we connect them to a resource that will help them. Anti-racism, LGBTQ+, working with marginalized groups like the homeless, working with seniors, working with newcomers, diversity and inclusion, equity. The training is very extensive, and it's important to us that when we are connecting with someone in New Brunswick, that we're providing them with the most outstanding service so that they get the help that they need. And the way we can help is very broad. We help in a very wide way. And through the partnerships that we have, through the database and the system and the community organizations that we work so closely with, we can answer questions relating to financial assistance, food access, programs for seniors, families, newcomers, parents, mental health resources, COVID-19 relief programs and safety advisories. If people want to know what the new orange means, they can call 211 and we can explain it to them. If you've experienced job loss, or if you're looking for job training for yourself or someone on your team, we can help. We are the one-stop shop for all non-emergency needs. A gentleman called us looking for help to declare his taxes. And while looking for a free tax clinic for him in his neighborhood, he expressed how lonely he's been since COVID started, how much he's struggling with a sense of isolation. And so with his permission, we explored other resources for him, like the Friendly Callers program. And that is where 211 wants to play a role. We want to help you find the help that is out there, and we want to help you find it quickly. We want to be that bridge between those who need help and those who can help. And so 211 really is a tool that we can all use. We can call on behalf of ourselves, on behalf of a loved one, on behalf of a client. And as we gather data, as the service continues, we're keeping track of unidentifying information, like where people are calling from and why. Is it for emergency food? Is it for COVID safety advisories? Is it for financial aid? And where are the unmet needs? Where are the gaps? So that we can help levels of government and community stakeholders moving forward to see the trends, to see the gaps, to make sure that no one in New Brunswick is left unsupported. And so 211 really is for everyone. To access the service, it's really easy. You just have to dial 211. If for some reason there's an issue, we have a toll-free line, and we now have a toll-free TTY line for those who are hard of hearing. We have a link that anyone can access to make sure that their programs and services are part of our database, that their information is up to date. I will mention that all programs in our database undergo a very strict evaluation process. It's important to us that we refer people to services that help and not harm. And so when you make a submission, whether it's an update or an addition, it undergoes an evaluation process first before it's automatically added. 211 really is the front door to community, social, and government services. Life can be hard, but finding help no longer has to be. And when we don't know where to turn, help starts by dialing 211. What can we all do to help spread the word? We can talk about 211. We can share it on social media, put it in our newsletters, send out emails. We can put it on our website, as many are doing, including the government of New Brunswick. We can include it in our email signatures, put it on our voicemail messages and our out-of-office replies. And then we've developed posters and postcards. So if it's ever of interest, please reach out to me, and it would be my absolute pleasure to send some to you. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, Mishka. Well, if you could stop sharing, we'll see if there's a few questions. Yeah, Councillor McKenzie can kick us off, and I see you, Deputy. I'll come to you next. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Mishka, for your presentation. I was looking at it this weekend. It's an awesome service to the citizens in New Brunswick, St. John. One of the questions that I have for you, though, is I deal pre-COVID mostly, but a little bit now with the neighborhood community centers, and they offer unbelievable programs for people. I'm wondering if, when you say that you are working with community centers, are you offering programs to people who could use those for their community centers? Does that help work?
We're working with community organizations to make sure that we have their information so that we make the right referrals. And then we work with organizations to fully understand the resources that are in New Brunswick, because when we refer people based on services eligibility requirements. So we're not sending seniors to youth programs. We're not sending youth to seniors programs either. We want to make the right connections. And moreover, we're a tool that community organizations can leverage. So the food banks, for example, I've been working very closely with around the province, and they're able to provide a holistic approach to their clients thanks to 211. Social workers are able to use 211 as a tool, especially for their clients who move out of their geographical mandate. And so they've developed a rapport with these clients, but because of their mandate, they're no longer able to help them. But they can give their former clients 211 as a tool, right? And as we move forward, the opportunities for collaboration are much greater. So those who want to develop directories for their communities can leverage 211. Because if we're the one-stop shop and we have the best information, then community organizations no longer have to remember which websites they're on, which phone books they're on. They can just make sure that their information is up to date with our system, and we will more than happy collaborate with other organizations and groups to develop that data and that data sharing.
Okay, so just so that I'm clear on this, if I live in the north end of St. John and I'm looking for help to do my taxes, you wouldn't necessarily direct me to the Nick Nicole Center and say they have a person there that helps people with taxes. You would be, or would you?
Well, that's going to be very caller dependent, right? So it's going to be specific on, for instance, your current income for the year, right? Whether or not you qualify for a certain tax clinic or not. And then it's based on your community. Do you have tax clinics in your community or your neighborhood, or are ones close by? Do they have a broader mandate than the city or the town that they're in? So it's a difficult question to ask, because when we refer resources, it's based on a specific caller's needs and particular situation. But I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you very much. I think
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. Ms. Jacobs, thank you very much for your presentation. I know it's very much used, I'm sure, across the province. I was just wondering, like, where are you situated in Fredericton? Is it, and who funds 211?
211 is currently being funded by the federal government in partnership with the provincial government. I'm personally in Moncton, but we work with our database team based in St. John, and we have community navigators around the province.
So if somebody calls, then they'll be connected to somebody, I guess, that knows the services in their community?
So the way it works, our community navigators are based here in New Brunswick, but we also form part of the national team. And so that's how we guarantee 24/7 service and calls answered within 30 seconds. So the overflow will go to the next available community navigator. And it's not a bad thing, because we have interprovincial questions. You know, we have loved ones in other provinces and we're concerned about them. And so we can leverage the national database to answer the questions that you have, and vice versa. If someone in Ontario is worried about their loved one here in New Brunswick, the community navigator who answers the phone in Ontario can leverage our database to provide them with the resources that they need. And our community navigators are trained to do so.
So if somebody called from St. John and they wanted a certain question, like say they were having financial difficulty, then whoever answers the phone, regardless of the time, would have the data stored so they could check to see where they could get help in St. John?
Absolutely. So that would be one of the questions that the community navigator would ask. Where are you located? Yes. And then based on the city, like St. John, they'd be able to pull up the resources in their neighborhood and their community. Okay.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for coming in to explain it to us.
Thank you.
I'm sure many people will use the service. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just very quickly, through you to the presenter, no question, just simply a commendation, I guess. I've recommended 211 to several constituents over the past little while, and it has been a tremendous tool for me because sometimes we as councillors end up being the folks navigating the system on behalf of our constituents, and we're not always the best people to do so because I don't know the intricacies of the bureaucracy and the intricacies of the programs that are offered a lot of the time beyond the communities that I'm familiar with. So it's been a great asset for me, even in just suggesting it to folks. So I appreciate that, and thanks for the presentation today, Mishka.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, David. Councillor Reardon.
Thank you, Worship. I also want to say thank you for bringing the presentation to council. When I read through the presentation, I mean, you know, it's pretty impressive. 365 days a year, 24/7, but 170 languages. And then you think that it really can't get any better than that, but then you actually get a person. And I mean, that can be intimidating for anyone to call a line where you're going to get an automated service to figure out where you need to go to try to navigate through it. And people often won't do it because of that. So I think this is a real key to your success. And like Councillor Hickey said, we often get, you know, asked all sorts of a range and scope of questions, but you know, this is a great tool for us as councillors. So really appreciate the visibility and bringing it to council tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Mishka, for your presentation tonight. I'll just sort of pile on. I know some of the project leads for the project for the province and how proud they were to, you know, to get this up and running. I think you said some very powerful, you know, like my colleagues have spoken to. I spend many hours a week, often from 9 o'clock at night till midnight, answering personal messages and trying to direct people. So you've given us a tremendous resource tonight in, you know, and just some of the language, the bridge between those that need help and those that offer help. It's just such a simple term, but people navigating through these processes, and especially if you're struggling in whatever the category might be, it's very difficult. I'm really excited. I'm hopeful that there will be data collection and that through this we will continue to work on consolidation of resources, on enhanced outcomes. So I think that not only are you that navigator and that bridge, but you know, I hope will be able to provide countless amounts of data that can have us do better. And so we know now better tonight that when somebody calls and says there's no resources, we can say, well, there is. It's 211. Start there, and you will get someone who compassionately cares and will try to work through the system. And we're launching a new city website tomorrow. I hope we have some capacity to put a great big 211 logo because, you know, I can tell you, just to wrap up my own comments, people, and without judgment, people do not understand. If you're in need, you don't care. Municipal, provincial, federal, you don't understand perhaps who does what. So having resources and somehow my challenge to the city manager is coupling this with our own customer service teams that make sure they've got 211 on their minds, so that if it isn't municipal, we are absolutely forwarding a resource to the individual who's calling. So thank you so much. We get hundreds of thousands of people watch our council meetings. So tonight 211 is on the map, and we will share anyone that's on social will share out 211. Thanks so much for coming in tonight.
Thank you so much. And if it's of use, I can follow up with an email with our logo and with some suggested 211 like imagery for social media, if that's helpful.
Absolutely, please. If you can get that to the clerk, he can forward it, to the rest of us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Worship and members of council.
Congratulations and thank you so much. Okay, can I have a receive and file, please, council? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Seconded by Councillor Reardon. Thank you. On the question, all those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary minded? Thank you. Motion is carried. Next item, please, Common Clerk.
Your Worship, item 10.1 is a proposed municipal plan amendment at 2400 Ocean Westway, and Commissioner Hamilton will introduce this.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hamilton.
Your worship, members of council, the report before you this evening recommends council move forward with the process to consider a plan amendment for the proposed access road to an existing quarry at 2400 Ocean Westway. There were no submissions received from the public during the 30-day public presentation period, and staff is recommending that you refer the application on to the Planning Advisory Committee and set a public hearing date of April 6th. And Mark Reed is available on behalf of staff if there are any further questions related to the application.
Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you for that, Ms. Hamilton. Mr. Armstrong, Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, I'll move this. I'll move that it move forward if I can get a seconder. Great.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Okay, the recommendation's on the floor then. Do you, sorry, Did you have a follow-up question?
No,
Councillor?
not a question, just a statement. I think this is a good thing for the neighborhood. If you've ever been out there, the trucks can only get down the main road. This is going to go in the back way and come out near the exit by the Laurenville. Well, I shouldn't say Laurenville, but the main road to head to the highway. So I think it's a real good thing that the developer, the construction company has taken, and it's going to alleviate a lot of noise and traffic on that road.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Councillor Norton, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just to second it, and Councillor Armstrong has captured it well. This is going to take a lot of road congestion off of that and save some frustrated citizens already with diverting traffic into a different route.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Great. Thank you. I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary minded? Thank you. Not seeing any. Motion is carried. Next item, please.
Yes, Your Worship, another proposed municipal plan amendment, and this is item 10.2 on your agenda. It's for 2100 Sandy Point Road.
Thank you. Ms. Hamilton. Sorry, I cut you off. Sorry, Common Clerk. Ms. Hamilton, I think you're going to introduce this.
Yes, Your Worship. Members of Council, the report before you this evening recommends moving forward with the process to consider a municipal plan amendment for the Ethos Ridge development at 2100 Sandy Point Road, following the close of the 30-day public presentation period. Given the significant public interest in the file, staff are recommending referral of the application to the Planning Advisory Committee and scheduling a dedicated public hearing on March 29th to give due technical and public consideration to the application. And should Council approve the recommendation, the public feedback received to date will be thoroughly reviewed and considered through the process. I would just highlight, before I hand it over to Mr. Reed, the decision before Council is one of process. You are being asked to consider the option of moving forward with the public process to consider this planning application. So tonight is not intended to address substantive questions related to the development project. I can assure you that these will be carefully considered as part of the upcoming planning process should Council decide to refer the application tonight. And with that as an introduction, I would turn it over to Mr. Andrew Reed, planner, to provide a brief overview of the staff report and recommendations. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Reed.
Good evening, members of council. Just to give you a quick overview, during the 30-day review period, we received comments from 62 households on this application in the form of letters and a petition. These concerns largely relate to the character of the development, traffic, infrastructure, and construction mitigation. As with any application, these concerns would be fully processed as we enter the full analysis of the application. The recommendation is to refer the application on to the Planning Advisory Committee, which would include a staff recommendation and public hearing, tentatively scheduled for March 29th.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, Councillor Reardon. Sorry, Councillor.
I was just going to move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Reardon, seconded by Councillor Merrithew. Thank you. And got a couple of hands up. Okay, thank you. I'll go in order and then I'll come back to you. Deputy Councillor Sullivan, please.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just through you to maybe Mr. Reed or Ms. Hamilton. I'm just curious with regards to process. We had the public presentation, 30 days, and then we get to this point. What do you consider when you decide whether to recommend at this point something to go on in the process? Is it just everything gets recommended to go on, or are there things you consider before recommending after the public presentation at this point? If you could help educate me, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, I'm just going to mute you, Deputy. There, Ms. Hamilton, do you want to?
Your Worship, I can take that question as a starting point. So certainly, this in the majority of cases, Council would refer this on through the process. This is a legislative process that provides the opportunity for the public and the developer and any interested parties to actively engage in a variety of public participation opportunities. There's certainly been only one application in my time that has not gone through that process, and really we look at whether there's merit in considering the application, whether it's a fundamental departure from the municipal plan, or whether there's, certainly some value in doing a full technical analysis and public review. And it would be exceptional situations where we would not recommend that this go through the process.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I think that there's, I was on a call last week. There's a lot of unanswered questions on this one, and I think that that's why we have the legislative process that we have, to make sure that every opportunity is there to get the information out to people and find out, just exactly what it's going to be like. So, I don't see anything here that would be a doorstopper on this. At this point in time, but I am looking forward to hearing a lot of answers at PAC on this file for sure. So I'll be supporting moving it forward on that grounds. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor, I'll go to you, and then to Councillor Merrithew. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you, and I'm sorry I sneezed.
Bless you. Bless you.
I'm wondering if I know this takes a lot of work for the staff, so I wonder, have you any idea, do you tally that up at all for different applications about how much time and resources that we use when we have to go through an application or review it? Like in this case, I mean, there's, a lot of contact from the public, and you have to answer all of those requests, of course, and I just wondered, yes, I know that we have to go through the process, and this is the way we do it, but I wonder if we've ever analyzed how much cost, how much time and energy we put in, because some applications you wouldn't have to do that much, but other ones, especially if there's opposition, you would have to do more.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Hamilton.
Your Worship, I can take that question. We've certainly done that type of analysis. I would point out that the community planning application service is a core legislative responsibility arising from the Community Planning Act. We certainly have an obligation to carry projects forward, and we have staff available to do that. There are a significant part of the costs of delivering this service that's actually charged back to the applicant. So we do recover a significant part of those costs, recognizing that it is a service that benefits the user. But we do track those costs, and certainly in this case, there was an application fee that's required as part of that to recover these costs.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deputy. Councillor Merrithew, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Ms. Hamilton said it very well, and so did Councillor McKenzie. There's absolutely no question we've got to go through the process. I understand there was a great deal of interest in this, but we don't have the facts and figures, and that's what going through this process, legislation, democratic process, is all about. Making a decision without doing that would you think would prejudice your decision. So I just wanted to say that I'm supportive of this, and as Councillor McKenzie said, there's a lot of questions to be answered. I'm looking forward to hearing some of them. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, I guess I just reiterate what the other councillors said. a lot of questions to be answered on this, and we'll move the process forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. And just a couple of comments from me. I mean, obviously, to acknowledge we've been contacted. Clearly, there's information in our kit. Letters have been received, and for me, it's moving a process through and forward that will explore, pull apart, deal with those concerns, and allow through both PAC, the Planning Advisory Committee, and public hearing with council to have a full exploration from those that are perhaps opposed to and those that are in favor of a project like this, and then council makes an informed decision. I have had calls from people that wanted me to take a position in advance, and my answer was the same to anybody that contacted me. I'm hearing you. I hear your concerns. Thank you for that. I'm not for it or I'm not against it. I'm keeping my mind open through the process, which is, as I understand it, over my 5 years, the legislative explanations that we've received. So, okay, thank you. So the motion is on the floor. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Anybody contrary-minded? Okay, thank you. Not seeing any. The motion's carried. Thanks. Next item, please, Common Clerk.
Yes, Your Worship. 10.3 on your agenda is a zoning bylaw amendment at 0 Eldersley Avenue, and this has a Section 59 condition as well. It would require 3 motions of council to finalize this matter. It would be a reading in its entirety, Section 59 approval, and a 3rd reading by title.
Okay, thank you. Mover by entirety, please, Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Merrithew. Okay, thank you. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Okay, not hearing any.
A law to amend the zoning bylaw, the City of St. John. The zoning bylaw, the City of St. John, enacted on the 15th day of December 2014, is amended by rezoning a parcel of land having an area of approximately 20,347 square meters located at 0 Eldersley Avenue, also identified as PID number 00471,359, from environmental protection to rural, pursuant to a resolution adopted by Common Council under Section 59 of the Community Planning Act.
Okay, perfect. Section 59, please. Moved by the deputy, seconded by Councillor Reardon. Thank you for that. Okay, great. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Thank you. Not hearing or seeing anyone. And
by title, Worship.
And by title. Thank you. Mover by title, deputy again, Councillor Sullivan. Thank you for that. And I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Thank you. The motion is carried.
A law to amend the zoning bylaw of the City of St. John.
Okay, next up, please.
Next is 10.4 on your agenda, and this is a parking bylaw amendment. It's a 3rd reading. It's for ticket increases. It requires 2 motions, one to read the bylaw in its entirety and 1 motion for title.
Okay, thank you. And by entirety, Councillor Sullivan, thank you. Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Okay, thank you. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Okay, not seeing any. The motion is carried.
A bylaw to amend a bylaw respecting the regulation of parking in the City of St. John, bylaw number LG8, and amendments thereto. A bylaw of the City of St. John entitled Bylaw Respecting the Regulation of Parking in the City of St. John, bylaw LG8, and amendments thereto, enacted on the 27th day of January 2020, is hereby amended as follows. 1. Section 8.1 is repealed and replaced with the following. 8.1. The fee for use of a parking space located on a street listed as Schedule A shall be not less than $2 per hour and not more than $2.25 per hour. Number 2, Section 17 is repealed and replaced with the following. 17. A person who violates a provision of this bylaw is guilty of an offense and is liable upon summary conviction to a penalty of not less than $90 and not more than $125. Number 3, subsection 18.2 is repealed and replaced with the following. 18.2, a person who violates any provision of this bylaw may pay to the city within 15 calendar days of the date of such violation an administrative penalty of $30. And upon such payment, the person who committed the violation is not liable to be prosecuted, therefore. And B, a person who violates any provision of this bylaw may pay to the city an administrative penalty of $40 if the payment is made more than 15 calendar days after the date of the violation, but within 30 calendar days of such violation. And upon such payment, the person who committed the violation is not liable to be prosecuted therefore. And C, a person who violates any provision of this bylaw may pay to the city an administrative penalty of $65 if payment is made more than 30 calendar days after the day of such violation, but before conviction in Provincial Court of New Brunswick. And upon such payment, the person who committed the violation is not liable to be prosecuted therefore.
Okay, thank you. And by title, Deputy Mayor, thank you. Councillor Sullivan again, thank you. And on the question, all those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Not seeing any. Thank you. Motion's carried.
A bylaw to amend a bylaw respecting the regulation of parking in the City of St. John, bylaw number LG8, and amendments thereto.
Thank you. Next item.
And the final one for bylaws is 10.5, and this is for the traffic bylaw amendment for ticket increase. This is, again, is a third reading requiring a reading in entirety and a reading by title.
Thank you. Move by entirety, please. Councillor Merrithew, Councillor McKenzie, thank you. And on the question, all those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Sorry, Councillor Strobridge, I loved your background is fantastic. Sorry, threw me off. Thank you. Over to you, Common Clerk.
Okay, bear with me. This one's a little bit longer, but.
Oh, good.
A bylaw to amend a bylaw respecting traffic on the streets in the City of St. John, bylaw number MV 10.1 and amendments thereto. A bylaw of the City of St. John entitled a bylaw respecting the traffic on streets in the City of St. John, bylaw number MV 10.1 and amendments thereto, enacted on the 7th day of October 2019, is hereby amended as follows. 1. Subsection 27.1 and 27.2 are repealed and replaced with the following. 27.1 subject to subsection 27.2, any person who violates a provision of this bylaw is guilty of an offense and is liable upon summary conviction to a penalty of not less than $100 and not more than $125. 27.2, any person who violates paragraphs 5.3c and 5.3d, 5.3g, section 11, paragraph 16.1a, subsection 19.3 or 19.4 of this bylaw is guilty of an offense and is liable upon summary conviction to a penalty of not less than $125. Number 2, subsection 28.2 is repealed and replaced with the following. A person who violates any provision of this bylaw other than paragraphs 5.3c, 5.3d, and 5.3g, section 11, paragraph 16.1a, subsections 19.3 and 19.4, may pay to the city within 15 calendar days of the date of such violation an administrative penalty of $40. And upon payment, the person who committed the violation is not liable to be prosecuted, therefore. B, a person who violates any provision of this bylaw other than paragraphs 5.3c, 5.3d, 5.3g, section 11, subsection 16.1a, subsection 19.3 and 19.4 may pay to the City of St. John an administrative penalty of $55 if payment is made more than 15 days after the date of the violation, but within 30 calendar days of such violation, and upon such payment, the person who committed the violation is not liable to be prosecuted, therefore. C, a person who violates any provision of this bylaw other than paragraphs 5.3c, 5.3d, 5.3g, section 11, subsection 16.1a, subsection 19.3 and 19.4 may pay to the city an administrative penalty of $80 if payment is more than 30 calendar days after the date such violation, but before the conviction in Provincial Court of New Brunswick, and upon such payment, the person who committed the violation is not liable to be prosecuted, therefore. D, a person who violates paragraphs 5.3c, 5.3d, section 11, subsection 16.1a, subsection 19.3, and 19.4 may pay to the city within 15 calendar days from the date of such violation an administrative penalty of $60. And upon such payment, the person who committed the violation is not liable to be prosecuted, therefore. E, a person who violates paragraphs 53C, 53D, section 11, paragraph 16(1)A, subsection 19(3), or 19(4) may pay to the city administrative penalty of $90 if payment is made more than 15 calendar days after the date of such violation, but within 30 calendar days of such violation. And upon such payment, the person who committed the violation is not liable to be prosecuted therefor. F, a person who violates paragraphs 53C, 53D, section 11, paragraph 11(1)A, subsection 19(3) or 19(4, may pay to the city an administrative penalty of $100 if payment is made more than 30 calendar days after the date of such violation, but before conviction in Provincial Court of New Brunswick, and upon such payment, the person who committed the violation is not liable to be prosecuted therefor. And G, a person who violates paragraph 53G may pay to the city an administrative penalty of $125, and upon such payment, the person who committed the violation is not liable to be prosecuted therefor. That's the end, Your Worship.
Oh, thank you. Okay, and by title, please. Deputy Mayor, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Hickey, thank you. And on the question, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary minded? Thank you. Motion is carried. Did you need to read the title or no?
Sorry, Your Worship. Yes. The title for this one's a bylaw to amend a bylaw respecting traffic on streets in the city of St. John, bylaw number MV 10.1 and amendments thereto.
Thank you. I used to be in the brick business, Councillor Sherbush. I'm not sure why that's got me so giddy, but your background has got me quite distracted. I apologize to the community. Okay, next item, please.
Next item is 12.1 on your agenda, and this is an update, a verbal update from the city manager.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. City Manager.
Your Worship, members of council, good evening. For this standing agenda item, I hope to touch on 3 points. First of all, an update on the cyber attack. Secondly, a safety moment, if you will, on the orange phase of COVID-19 that we currently find ourselves in. And thirdly, a few quick words on an expression of interest for the Cherry Brook Zoo location that is now in the public domain. First of all, turning to the cyber attack. At the last detailed brief that I provided to this council, I explained that we had decided to build new networks instead of trying to repair our old networks. I won't review all the reasons for that here this evening. However, I am pleased to report this evening that we remain on track for the completion of most of that rebuild for the May-June timeframe of this year, with significant progress already having been achieved. I'm also happy to report that all city services remain available throughout this build period, although some of them are still using manual procedures while we adjust and establish our new networks. You will also see this evening another tangible step in that rebuild process with the introduction of our new website, and more to follow on that in a few moments. Turning to the issue that this was a ransomware attack. We did engage a third-party consulting firm, and their analysis is complete, and they have no indication of any significant breach of information from our networks. This includes no significant breach of confidential information in the police files, and no compromise of what we call personal identifying information, that is to say credit card numbers, bank accounts, etc. I want to stress at this point that no significant breach is never a guarantee, and I will speak more about that in a few moments. Also, and contrary to some irresponsible media reporting that has occurred, the city did have a good backup system in place for data, and we can report this evening that the vast majority of our data has been or will be recovered. Therefore, between the reality that there has been little to no compromise of data and that our corrupted data is recoverable through backup, I have decided to direct the staff that we cease any exploration of ransom payment options. As a footnote to this update and returning back to the personal identifying information, cyber attacks regrettably are here to stay, and personal information is being compromised on a daily basis. Therefore, since we can offer no firm guarantee that there was no compromise, even though we have no indication of such, but that combined with the reality that this is a persistent threat, we continue to remind all members of our community that they should, on a regular, routine basis, check their financial records and report any suspicious activity to their financial institution or to the appropriate government departments as necessary, for example, CRA. Turning to COVID-19 and the orange phase. Compliance in the city of St. John has been quite good, but it has not been perfect. And the reality, and we have seen it time and again throughout Canada, it only takes one to cause an outbreak. This evening, I wish to speak to you about our open spaces. The mandatory order is clear, and forgive me, but I am going to quote from it to begin with. Paragraph 27 of the mandatory order states, and I quote, "Every person must wear a face covering that covers their mouth and nose and that meets guidelines published by the Chief Medical Officer of Health in outdoor locations where the public is welcomed and where that person is within 2 meters of persons from outside of their own bubble." End quote. I am referring here, members of council and to members of the public, to our sidewalks, our community walking spaces such as Harbor Passage, and our trails within our parks. We are again seeing general compliance, but not with everyone. The staff will, over the coming days, put up even more signage, reminding everybody of the importance of wearing masks. But it only takes one. And therefore, I would strongly encourage the community to help us encourage others to wear their masks in those outdoor spaces. It is a requirement of the mandatory order in the orange phase to protect ourselves. My third point this evening is on the expression of interest for the Cherry Brook Zoo location. It has now been made available through the normal networks whereby RFPs, tenders, etc. are advertised. And as soon as our new website is up and running, it will also be made available there. In short, we are asking the community to express interest, if they are credible, formed, organized bodies, for what they would see or wish to do on the Cherry Brook Zoo location lands. And that expression of interest will remain open to at least 31 March, after which the staff will begin the review process of the various recommendations. And I simply wanted to draw everyone's attention to that. Your worship, subject to any questions there may be, that concludes the city manager's update for this evening.
Okay, thank you, city manager. Questions for the city manager? Okay, I don't see any hands. You'll move a receive and file deputy. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor McKenzie. I do have a question, city manager. Thank you. First of all, thank you for the update. I know how hard our staff have been working on some of these key files. Secondly, thank you for addressing head on some of, and this is by no means a push by me at the media. I think media play a role in helping us communicate, but thank you for addressing a suggestion that we had no backup and so on. I think it's important to clarify for the record. I have a bit of a question for you. I'm just interested. So, of course, this past week, we had an incident at our historic city market. Thank you for, I understand it was first spotted perhaps by a security personnel. Thank you for the quick work. Thank you for the quick work of our St. John Fire Department. And we won't solve likely tonight, city manager, but if you were, I guess it's a message to the public as well to, if you were to follow that online, I thought the city market was burned to the ground. I mean, just it was a frenzy. There were comments on every post, and it turns out, in fact, it was a serious but a smaller incident. Our own deputy chief sent a note that it was a rather minor incident. So maybe it's not a question, it's more of a blabbering statement by me, city manager, that just for all of us to be careful what we're reading, to seek as many facts as we can. And I just wonder, you know, if you do have a comment, city manager, I use that illustration of an example. We'll never be able to communicate that quickly as a city. Do you have any advice for us when something like that's going on? What can we learn from that event that, you know, figuratively or literally had the market burned to the ground when in fact it was a rather small event?
Well, I think you touched on a number of points, Your Worship. The first one is, unless we are willing to spend an awful lot of money on manpower, on personnel, we could never hope to have a communications team in place that would be as quick to report things as social media and the average citizen on the street. Quite frankly, this community is some 70,000 people. Therefore, there are some 70,000 reporters on the street. And that is the reality of the day and age that we live in. I guess not just for the city market minor fire that occurred, but I say this all the time to anyone who will listen. Rely on credible sources for your information. And credibility is earned through experience, reputation, etc. But things that are reported too quickly or things that are reported by passerbys, we need to, I think, consider the source. They may be 100% correct, but they may not be. And therefore, simply, as much as possible, rely on those credible sources of information to help inform your own opinions and actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, just very quickly, and then we'll move on. But you know, I think we live, and especially in the last year, people are, you know, we're on edge. It's been a very difficult year, and you know, we see in some forums not only they're reporting almost blow by blow of a fire, for example, but we now see reporting of possible fires, which turn out to be no, it was, you know, burnt toast, or, and I'm not making light of it, but just. I think all play a role in a calmness in our community as well. So, okay, thank you. The motion's on the floor to receive and file. Thank you. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Anyone contrary-minded? The motion's carried. Thank you. Next item, please.
12.2 on the agenda is Funday Key project launch.
Thank you. City Manager.
Your Worship, very quickly, and then I will be handing over to Commissioner McGovern, our Commissioner of Infrastructure and Utilities, to take us through a rather important presentation this evening and I've used this expression before, to wrap a bit of a bow around the Funday Key project so that the public in this council can understand where we are and where we are heading. There is no doubt, and it certainly has been reported that way so far, that this is a tremendous step forward. It's a very positive business case, and it is a catalytic project. It will spur other development. So I am pleased that we are able to present to you this evening a bit of a summary as to where we are and where we are going. And with that, I'll hand over to Commissioner Brett McGovern.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Your Worship, members of Council. After years of seeking funding and working to securing the project, it is exciting to start talking about project implementation. This evening, we would like to take an opportunity to highlight the Funday Key project launch. St. John has a lot to be proud of. We have safe, clean drinking water. Our harbor has been cleaned up, and now we're moving to open up more of our public spaces and making the harbor more accessible to the public, renewing our public spaces, renewing city infrastructure like the seawall, and preparing the site for development and growth. Mr. Sear will take us through some of the recent progress that has been made, what the Friday funding announcement looks like for this project, what revenues will come to the city, our risk management approach as it relates to funding, and a bit of communications and engagement. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Jeff Sear, who is the Director of Strategic Real Estate Projects with the new Regional Economic Development Agency for Greater St. John.
Thank you, Brent, and thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. I'm just going to share my screen here quickly. Yes. To continue, it's a very exciting milestone for the Funday Key project, but also for the urban core of St. John, the city, and the Greater St. John region as a whole. As has been reported, the Funday Key project, both the public infrastructure and the private potential investment, will be a transformational project for the city. It's anticipated that the full build out of this, including both public and private infrastructure, will be in the magnitude of $300 to $350 million in construction activity. And it's really been 20 years in the making. There's been a few false starts. But we've never been to this point before, where we are now able to say that we are moving from securing the project, we've secured what we need, to really implementing the project. And that's very exciting, and it's really a great milestone for the city. So some of these key items that we've been able to secure. Friday, we had the federal and provincial infrastructure funding announcement. We have a developer option fee that's non-refundable. It's due this Friday. The developer has provided confirmation of payment. So really, for the first time, we've got the funding and the infrastructure funding to bring down these barriers, to transform the public space around the waterfront. And we also have a developer with real skin in the game, significant non-refundable financial contributions. We also have finalized our ground lease agreement. There's the provincial property on the site. There's an agreement for purchase and sale that's been approved, and we're getting ready to award contracts for design and engineering. So we're really moving this forward. I mentioned previously the full scope that's been reported on, the $300 to $350 million in construction cost. Not going to get into all the details in great detail, but overall, the public infrastructure component, including what's already been approved by the city and the federal government for the seawall, is a roughly $27.5 million. As was reported, the city's component is roughly $9 million. That is not all new money. So in terms of what hasn't already been approved as part of the seawall project, what we're looking for and what's in the capital budget submission this evening is $4.152 million. And that would cover the reconstruction of Loyalist Plaza, the expansion of Harbor Passage around the Funday Key property, new pedway connection between Funday Key and Market Square, as well as site improvements to the Funday Key site itself, such as soil remediation and site regrading, to really bring forward a development-ready site. So what this funding looks like: today, prior to Friday's announcement, we were moving forward with the seawall project. The city had 60% of that project under its belt in terms of its funding contribution of $4.9 million. That changes dramatically with the new funding package. So the city's contribution to a $27 million project now is 33% at this $9 million when you factor in the additional 4.1 that's in the capital budgets being brought forward. And as Commissioner McGovern alluded to, there is a strong business case for doing so, transforming the waterfront and bringing forward a significant private sector investment. Will have revenue generation opportunities. The first component really is our ground lease and sale agreement with the developer. The valuation is at $6.5 million. Lease payments are $250,000 a year until that lease is bought out. The first is the non-refundable deposit that was confirmed today. And then beginning in year 6, there's a $25,000 matched annual maintenance contribution to help support the maintenance of the Funday Key infrastructure moving forward. In addition to the proceeds from the ground lease and sale, there'll also be the annual property tax revenue generated from the development of the site. So at full build out, based off the plan submitted by the developer and have been shared publicly as of last week, we anticipate somewhere in the magnitude of $2 to $3 million a year in municipal tax revenue generated from the project. One key component that we will need to keep an eye on and manage diligently through this project is schedule and funding risk. So a large portion of the public space for this program has been approved through the COVID-19 Community Resiliency Program under the federal government. And one of the key challenges that that program represents is that there are very aggressive timelines to complete work by the end of 2021. So unless there is an extension, the challenge that we'll need to manage is to ensure that we only start work that we know we can finish on time, unless an extension is provided. We'll be working very hard to work with our federal and provincial counterparts to pursue those extensions. But we will need to be careful, and consultants that will be engaged with this project will be developing a risk-based approach to design, tendering, and construction management. So the components of the work that fall under that stream are Loyalist Plaza, roughly about a third of the Harbour Passage extension, and the Pedway connection as well. One final thing to touch on is communications and engagement. At this point, with the project launch, we are going to be turning and pivoting towards moving forward on design, and engagement both of the community and key stakeholders is going to be critical. We've already started having discussions with boardwalk tenants, particularly some of the restaurants, and that will be a key stakeholder that we'll work closely with throughout the year. We'll be working on a communications engagement plan that'll be finalized, and it'll help to inform the public space redesign. And then finally, one of the key things that we're going to be very sensitive throughout this project is, minimizing construction impacts on the boardwalk, particularly to businesses during COVID-19. There's already enough challenges, so we'll be working closely to ensure that the way all of this project proceeds is something that can help insulate those businesses from the impact. So overall, the intention of this presentation and report is really a receive and file, and to provide background and the bow on this project, but also to set up some of the other reports that are coming related to the Funday Key project later in the evening.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sear. You made that sound very, very simple. 5 years since I've been here, massive amounts of work, years behind that, so many hands on this, and to get this over the finish line. I had the honor of representing council at the press conference on Friday. It truly was an historic day to get this over the finish line. Folks are very, very excited about this project. So thanks. It's just a receive and file, folks. Can I just get that on the table? Deputy, seconded by Councillor Reardon. Thank you. Councillor Hickey, did you have a comment, a question?
Just quickly, Your Worship, I just want to give a thanks to Jeff and Steve and the whole team for the huge amount of work that has gone into this project. It's incredibly exciting to see it come to fruition, to see the money in the bank, to see the shovels about to hit the ground. I know I'm incredibly excited. I'm sure I share sentiment of the rest of council. This council said, and it was before me, said it was going to deliver on the Funday Key. And that's what happened. It was because of the work of staff. It was because of the agreements with the federal and provincial governments, huge investments from both. And I think this is going to be the catalytic project that propels our sustainability on the waterfront, and truly gets us on that track to sustainability, which I think is really positive. So those are my comments. That's all. Thanks, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Sullivan, and then I'll come to you, Deputy. Councillor Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Really, just staff had mentioned it. Harbor cleanup took years. Safe, clean drinking water took years. I think we bought the property somewhere around 2010, give or take, thinking, gee, this could be a huge project one day and be wonderful for the city. And here we are 11 years later. You said it, Your Worship, many people have had their hands on this. But what a fantastic past few days for the city. I've got to pile on. Thank you to the province and to the federal government, and our own financial folks who make sure it works and we stay within our policies. to bring these sort of things to life. So just so excited. So many thanks for everybody involved, and looking forward to seeing the work happen this summer.
Perfect. Well said. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Well, thank you, Worship. This is very exciting, and I think everybody in the community, it's really shouting from the rooftops that it's finally happened, and we thank all our partners. I just wondered is, like, we get our reports on council from the Economic Development Agency that at one time was developed St. John, and then we get reports from senior staff. But as we move forward, is there going to be like one person that's going to represent the city, or is this the way it's going to be? Like our new Economic Development Agency will have their hand into it, which I agree with. You know, that's fine. I just wondered how it's going to work. And our senior staff, like, do we need to have one person that once we start the work to see overall what happens on a daily basis?
City Manager.
Your Worship, through you to the Deputy Mayor. Everybody has a role to play. The new Regional Economic Development Agency, which by the way will have a name in the not too distant future, will continue to do strategic real estate advocacy work on behalf of all municipalities within the region. And that's really what they did in earnest with the Funday Key project. They did the advocacy work. They worked with developers. They worked with the various levels of government to try to get something together that would make sense. That work and that sort of work in terms of strategic real estate moving forward will continue with the new Regional Economic Development Agency. Our own staff, however, do a lot of heavy lifting as well. We have a growth department. We have a planning. We have our city planners. We have our building inspectors, et cetera, and all of those parts of our organization will continue to be involved in projects like this and other projects within the city as we move forward. And finally, we have a Commissioner of Infrastructure and Utilities, which is part of our restructured city staff, and that is Commissioner McGovern, and he has been tagged by me to oversee all major infrastructure projects within the city. So he will play a bit of an oversight or supervisory role. And then finally, as required, and we have identified it as a requirement for Funday Key, the city will need to fund for project management services as we move through this project, because it is such a complicated affair between seawall remediation, site remediation, property buildup, etc., pedway extensions. So all of that will still occur. So I guess the short answer is there will always be many hands in the pie, but it will be the role of the city to ensure that the right hands are in the right pie at the right time.
Okay, I appreciate that. I just wanted to let the public know how we were going to go forward, because it is a big project and there's many parts to it. So there'll be lots of issues over the next number of years, but I'm sure and hopefully it'll all work out and be a wonderful project. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Deputy. Okay, I'll call the question on the receive and file. All those in favor? Thank you. Anybody contrary minded? Excellent. Thanks again to the entire team. Well done. Okay, next item, please.
Next item is 12.3, Utility and General Fund Revised 2021 Capital Programs.
Thank you. Commissioner McGovern, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Bear with me a minute as I bring up my presentation here, please.
It works. Perfect.
Excellent. Good news. Before you for consideration this evening are the Utility and General Fund Revised 2021 Capital Programs. The primary reasons for the revisions to the capital programs are the reallocation of funding associated with the revised bilateral funding program submission and the addition of projects to advance Funday Key, one of St. John's 3 catalytic projects. I'd like to just take a step back for a second and look at some of the background. From our original bilateral submission, the city received notice from the province in March of last year that we would not be receiving any infrastructure renewal funding under the bilateral funding program. The city reapplied for bilateral funding in the summer of 2020, and while our resubmission was very similar to the original submission, the funding timelines had changed such that the funding would begin in 2021 and run through to 2026. Other priority projects have also come to light in 2020 and in early 2021, based primarily on asset management condition assessments that are readily ongoing. And of course, we have been assessing the prioritization, of course, of the Funday key projects, subject to the announcement we received on Friday. So I'll not go through all of these, but there's been a lot of consideration given to the various guiding plans, council priorities, and council approved policies in revising our 2021 capital programs. As well, we've received input from each city department, as well as our new regional economic development agency for Greater St. John, and as well as from St. John Energy. And to start with, as far as the St. John Water Utility Fund capital budget, the recommended revised 2021 capital program amounts to just over $12 million. Capital from the utility budget is $6.246 million as approved in the 2021 utility operating budget and the industrial water budget. In this revised proposed budget, you'll note significant leveraging of funding from other sources. In total, $5.84 million, or 48.3% of the budget envelope, and that is proposed to come from 5 different funding programs that are listed here on the screen. I would also want to highlight that there's no borrowing for the revised 2021 capital utility budget program, and no impact on water and sewer rates. And this program will help to reduce our operational risk. For the revised general fund capital program, it totals nearly $45 million, an increase of $19.3 million. The increase is being attributed to the addition of funded key projects in accordance with the capital budget policy, and the revision also incorporates additional money for the city's asset, the seawall project. In total, the city share is $15,867,600 for the revised funding program, and pay-as-you-go at just over $2 million. The general fund other share is very significant at just over $29 million. And if we're able to realize all of this funding from others, it will indeed bring great value to citizens. There are 8 different sources of confirmed or anticipated funding that are listed on your screen. Lastly, I'd like to thank our Director of Engineering, Mr. Mike Baker, for all his significant contributions in reworking this funding program, as there's a lot of different funding programs, as you can see, tied into each of these projects. And with that, Your Worship, the recommendations are before Council for Council's consideration this evening. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Does someone want to move those recommendations? Councillor Reardon and Councillor Merrithew, thank you. If you could stop sharing, perfect. Any questions for the Councillor Reardon? Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. For the public, this is item 12.3, in case you want to go back and take a little quick look at it. I mentioned this at the Finance Committee the other night. I'm just going to read this one. There's all kinds there, but I'm going to read this one. For Wentworth Street, Elliott Road to Orange, renew 180 meters of 300 millimeter TC, I'm assuming that's terracotta sanitary sewer, condition grade of 4, with a year in service of 1867. Abraham Lincoln was shot in 1865. He was the 16th president of the U.S. We didn't. The 46th president of the U.S. It was just elected. So you got your money out of that terracotta, I guess. So it's interesting reading. St. James Street, 1876, Waterloo Street, 1856, Germain, 1884. So I get the prioritization of it and why the uptown streets, a lot of them have, you know, such old sewer pipes. So I will ask Brent though, that terracotta, is it all terracotta? That I know some of it is would be concrete. Is there any wood left?
Through your worship, there's no wood left that we're aware of. The last of it has been replaced as part of the Safe Clean Drinking Water project, but it doesn't mean that there's none left out there. From our records though, it's all been removed.
So most of that older stuff, is it mostly terracotta or is it other things? I've noticed that some of it says concrete sanitary sewer.
Yes, your worship. The old pipe, the sanitary sewer is a lot of terracotta sewer, and it is subject to cracking, as you can imagine. And so it's important that we replace it to really tighten up our system and not allow infiltration and inflow into it.
Yeah, because, you know, in 1867, there wasn't the traffic on the roads that there is today, and even just the weight of the vehicles on the roads today. So, yeah, it definitely needs to be replaced. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Councillor Merrithew.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you, Councillor Reardon. She did mention that in finance, and I get it was most interesting. Got a charge out of it. I just want to say it's wonderful work. It's below ground, most of it, so it's not evident to us seeing it every day, but it will spur more growth in the city. It's done at tremendous value. We've leveraged this very well, and it, as the commissioner already said, it will not impact these water and sewer rates. So thank you so much, staff.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I just had a couple of comments. First of all, thanks for the presentation tonight. I don't know, I'm sort of beaming with pride tonight. I mean, first of all, it's kind of interesting that's that terracotta pipe, Councillor Reardon, but just to be part of a city that has such rich history, you know, one of the first water systems in the country, played such a massive role in certainly on the East Coast in the country's formation. We know the role we've played, still play. You know, this is a $56 million capital program that we couldn't do without partners. And, you know, frankly, my comments are I think we need to do a better job of celebrating these investments and really, you know, we couldn't do it without all of the partners, Commissioner, that you listed tonight. And frankly, giving them their kudos, giving them our thanks. You know, we do these projects, you know, and as Councillor Merrithew said, these are really reinvestments, growth investments to you know, unlock further potential in the community. So it's a $56 million capital program here. Obviously, couldn't be done without other partners, and I just, you know, beaming with pride. I'm not sure I want a piece of that terracotta pipe, like I said I did in finance, but pretty awesome night tonight to be moving this kind of capital program ahead. It's going to be a busy year for construction in and around St. John. So, okay, thank you. The recommendations are on the floor, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Anybody contrary minded? Thanks. Thanks for all the rework on that, Commissioner, to you and your team. Okay, next item, please, Common Clerk.
12.4, Your Worship, is Architectural Services Loyalist Plaza and Funday Key Harbor Passage Extension.
Okay, thanks. We'll just leave your camera on, Mr. McGovern. You're back on again tonight.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Along the theme of pivoting as it relates to Funday Key, this is a great example. We are immediately moving from securing the project as was touched on earlier, to implementing the project. And we're before you this evening to seek your support in awarding the architectural services related work for the project as it relates to the public spaces, including Loyalist Plaza, Harbor Passage Extension, and Harbor Passage Extension along the Funday Key property. And at this time, I'd turn it over to Mr. Jeff Sear, once again, of the new Regional Economic Development for Agency for Greater St. John. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner McGovern and Mayor and Common Council. So this contract award this evening is for architectural services. It'll be for the design of Loyalist Plaza, the Harbor Passage extension around Funday Quay, and the pedway connection between Market Square and the Funday Quay. At this point, the city will be pursuing a new approach to the design of this public space. And the next steps will be to undertake stakeholder and community engagement process while starting to move forward the design. The federal funding programs for this work do contain aggressive timelines, which will require the design and engagement process to move forward in rapid succession. This is why the city's positioned itself to be able to award this contract immediately following the approval and announcement of federal and provincial funding last Friday. As we move through the design process, further details with regards to what that design could look like and construction timetables will come forward, and we'll be able to provide updates at those times. So at this point, we were recommending that Common Council award the design contract for the architectural services for the public space at Funday Quay.
Thank you. Are you moving that, Deputy?
I will, but I also have a question, Your Worship, if I may.
Yeah, 1 second. Moved by the Deputy, seconded by Councillor Hickey. You okay with that? Okay, thank you. Deputy, go ahead.
You said, are they going to continue with the design like a few years ago, and I didn't really see it, so I don't remember it, but we had a design proposed. They had done some work previously. So are they going to continue on from that, or is it going to be sort of a new design?
I can thank you, Your Worship, to the councillor. What can be used from the previous design will be used and learned upon. This process will have a different budget. It will have a different approach, and there's things that have changed since. Mm-hmm. So in all likelihood, the design will be different, but there's certainly key aspects to the analysis, the engineering work that can be reused.
Okay, well, thank you. And I'm pleased that the Glen Group, because they did the former design or a few years ago, and now they're continuing on. So I think they'll do well for the city because they've been working with the city of St. John for some time. So thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I didn't see anyone else. Okay, just quickly, I think folks are very excited about the Funday Quay announcement. There's another level of excitement about Harbor Passage extension, public spaces, so I'm quite excited to see, what the Glen Group comes up with here, and, the consultations, because I know there's a lot of folks that are giddy is the word that I would use around those public spaces being renewed and extended, and I'm sure you'll get lots of feedback with that. So, okay, we have the recommendation on the floor. I don't see any other hands, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Okay, thank you. You got a lot of work to get at this summer, Mr. Sear. Thank you. And Mr. McGovern? Okay, the motion's carried. Thanks. Next item.
12.5, Your Worships, engineering services, Coulson Cove raw water transmission main upgrades.
Okay, well, this is the Commissioner McGovern meeting tonight. So, Ms. Commissioner, back to you again.
Good evening, Your Worship. As Council is aware, these are projects that were just added as part of our revised 2021 Utility Fund capital program. We're before you, given the need to get these projects completed because of the importance of the work, and we believe we can do so if we move quickly. At this time, I'd turn it over briefly to Mr. Mike Baker, our Director of Engineering Services and Chief City Engineer.
Thanks, Brent. The council report before you is for engineering services for the Coulson Cove raw water transmission main upgrades project and the Lancaster wastewater treatment facility upgrade project. The Coulson Cove raw water transmission main upgrades project entails the design of route improvements to access the existing transmission main, as well as replacement of 3 large culverts that cross over top of the transmission main. The Lancaster wastewater treatment facility project upgrade entails detailed investigations and design to replace the existing underground airline header system that is leaking air during operation. Due to the existing safety issue at the Lancaster wastewater treatment facility and the risk of ensuring continuity of raw water to the Colson Cove Generating Station. It is staff's recommendation to move quickly and complete the direct engagements with CBCL Limited and Englobe to ensure that work is completed as soon as possible. Once an agreement on fees is made between the city and the consultants, we will return to council with reports. Will be submitted to council for council's approval.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baker. So we have recommendation there, council. Does somebody want to move that? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Seconded by Councillor Merrithew. Thank you. Any questions, council? I have one, Commissioner. So I understand we have some urgency, time sensitivity. It's going to be a very busy summer. How do you benchmark, just from a value perspective, when you're going direct like that? How do you benchmark that? You've got a total project budget, obviously, that you're not going to exceed. How do you benchmark that value when you're going direct in a direct application like this?
Yes, Your Worship, we do have a sense of the cost estimate of what it takes based upon all of our experience that we have with consulting engineering firms. And so the typical range, and Mr. Baker can jump in here and correct me if I'm off slightly, but I think it's in the 11% to 18% range. And so we look at that. We work with the consultants and make sure that it's within that range. And if it isn't, we come back either way to council with a recommendation and reasoning as to why it is where it is. But we do go through a selection process of looking at consultants and their experience and knowledge and history on these particular areas before considering who we reach out to.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And it's, I would, so that's perfect. I just wanted the public to understand that despite the urgency that there's no blank checks here. I mean, there's checks and balances and yeah, perfect. Thank you. Okay, the recommendation again is on the floor, folks. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary minded? Thank you. Motion's carried. Next item, please.
12.6, Your Worship, is conditional amendment to the grant agreement of the Climate Change Vulnerability Assessment Methodology.
Back to
Last
you, Mr.
one, I promise, Your Worship.
Yeah, well, you've got your counterpart with you now, Mr. Yamin. So, okay, over to you, Brent.
So this is a straightforward amendment of an existing grant agreement that relates to the great work Mr. Yamin has been doing on the methodology of climate change vulnerability assessments. The grant agreement is with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and the funding was received under the Municipalities for Climate Change Innovation Program. And FCM has requested many municipalities, including the City of St. John, approve this amendment to the grant agreement, which states if the innovation program is extended by the Government of Canada beyond the expiration date of March 31st, then the date of the project will be extended to the 28th of February 2022. So with that, I'd like to thank Mr. Yamin for all his work that he continues to do to take us down the path of becoming a net zero St. John by 2040. And Mr. Yamin is online with us here this evening if there are any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, well, just so the public knows, it's a $150,000 project with $125,000 being funded through the program from FCM. So please keep negotiating those deals. Those are good deals, and had the opportunity on Friday to facilitate a conversation where Carol Saab from FCM, the CEO of FCM, was present and has done a phenomenal job, FCM, of negotiating billions of dollars on behalf of municipalities across the country. So, okay, perfect. Do we have a mover of the recommendation, Council? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Seconded by Councillor Reardon. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Yamin? No? Just keep up the good work, Mr. Yamin. Thank you. On the question, all those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary minded? I will say, and we talk about it all the time, Council, but perhaps for you, Mr. McGovern, Mr. Yamin, maybe a bit more celebration. I'm not sure folks fully appreciate what great leaders St. John have been, and not only are we talking about climate change, we have climate adaptation plans, climate mitigation plans, and Mr. Yamin has been leading the city for years now, and making tremendous inroads. So a bit more celebration of that would be really great. Okay, thank you. That motion's carried. Next item.
12.7, Your Worship, is redesigned website stjohn.ca.
Thank you, City Manager.
Your Worship and members of Council, contrary to popular belief, what I am pleased to introduce to you this evening is not a direct result of our most recent cyber attack. We have been in the process of redesigning our website for approximately 2 years. The redesign has been intentional. Our old website was, quite frankly, old school in terms of its design and layout. It required more time than it should to do updates and to keep it current. And it really didn't have the focus on customer service that we wanted. Therefore, we went through a very deliberate process in terms of a needs analysis, options, etc., to get to where we are today. Now, the introduction of our new website was certainly slowed by the cyber attack, but as we build our new networks and as we return things online, we are now at the point where our new website can go live, and it's a tremendous step forward for the city. With that as the introduction, I'd like to hand over to Ms. Sarah Ranson, who is a manager within our IT department and who has been the lead manager in terms of the development of this website. She will give you a little bit more background and then walk you through a demonstration. Sarah, over to you.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. Can you see the PowerPoint?
You're good.
Okay, thank you. So good evening, Mayor Darling and members of Common Council. I'm here to present the newly redesigned stjohn.ca website tonight. I will review the objectives of the redesign project and show you a quick demo of the site. You are seeing the development site tonight. As John mentioned, the site will officially launch tomorrow. The development site is a little bit slower than the real one will be, so no worries if this takes a little bit as we move around. After consulting several stakeholders, including employees, citizens, the Growth Committee, and senior leadership team, 2 goals were identified for the new website. The first was to enhance the experience for customers accessing city services. The second was to promote growth. Other objectives were to ensure the site was accessible and responsive so it fit with the device being used. Also improved with the site was the security and is hosted on an external network to ensure availability in the event service delivery in the city is interrupted. There are some features that are going to be revealed as they are ready as part of the Phase 2 objectives. Some examples include more content in the form of documents and additional links, reinstatement of our web cameras, integration of additional information for newcomers, more arts and culture information, and reinstatement of our city news notifications via email. Improvements will be made based on citizen feedback and Google Analytics as the site is launched and people get used to it. The redesigned website is a project approximately 2 years in the making. The project team would like to thank several organizations and people for their help. Over 40 staff members have been involved with the website development, completing various tasks and functions. Drew McKinnon and team at Blaze Studios and their partners, Jennifer Snow, Nigel Farron, and Brad Dykma have brought our vision to life. Hemmings House generously donated the footage to create the video on the main page. David Goss added interesting historical information to our neighborhood section. The Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency has financially supported the project with grant money reserved for growth initiatives. Rod Steers Photography shared their work with us. Also, the citizen testers who took time to test the site and offer their feedback. All the work and generosity of these people are appreciated very much. Please wait one moment while I bring up the website.
You just got a bunch of good-looking people there right now, Sarah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, sorry.
How's that now? Do you see a website?
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I like the good-looking people better, but that's okay.
We'll go back to them. The site has beautiful updated photography and videography to showcase our city. There's a whole new section dedicated to our diverse neighborhoods, so those considering moving here will see how many different types of places they can live. There are multiple ways to access information about city services quickly. We'll go through the demo now, further into the demo, so you can see these features. There are 4 pages designed to promote the city. They are the value proposition pages for investors as well as current and future residents. The first page is the home page. The home page starts with a beautiful video showing the city's waterscapes, clean streets, gorgeous architecture, and restaurant scene. Scrolling down the page takes you to the news section, Twitter feed, and community dashboard. All these tools have information about the current events in the city. The community dashboard is a single point to access information about city operations, such as transit routes, status of sports fields, and garbage collection. The weather and tide information have been incorporated into the homepage, so day trip planners can easily check the weather before exploring events in the city via the events calendar, and potential newcomers can see what our weather is like here. There is also room to showcase organizational projects, which is currently displaying our fiscal improvement plans. The transit route planner is there to make it easy for riders to access transit information. There are 6 boxes which help citizens find information on the most popular topics being searched and provide access to city videos. At the bottom of the page, we have an Instagram feed. We encourage our residents to post pictures of their favorite St. John events and scenery to #MySt. to help us promote our home. The second romance page is the Explore Our Neighborhoods page. This section was created to help newcomers familiarize themselves with their neighborhoods and other neighborhoods in the city. It is also for potential newcomers to help find a place to live. Let's look at the North End. The GIS department has created several maps to help users explore. Users can access a great deal of information about the amenities in the neighborhood, the city services in the area, the city council information, and links to non-city agencies, as well as a photo album to help the neighborhood come to life. The Opening and Growing a Business page is another page designed to attract investors and inspire pride in our current residents. The page points out the many advantages of investing in St. John, such as our location, sector strengths, quality of life, workforce, dynamic uptown area, infrastructure advantage, such as quick internet, low cost of electricity, and award-winning drinking water. Also included is the port, our research and innovation capacity, and business parks. There is extensive information and access to supporting resources from this page, like Uptown St. John. The Here to Help section highlights the city's commitment to helpful and responsive customer service. The page takes the user directly to the customer service wizard called Permits, Licenses, and Service Requests, designed to help residents communicate their needs to city staff members via the integrated customer service team. The wizard will guide users through the most common requests, such as building a fence or a retaining wall. By following the questions, users are pointed in the right direction. Let's pick under 2 meters tall. So the user discovers a permit is not needed and can read the appropriate section on the zoning bylaw. In case the user misses the icon to access the service center, the contact label on the top bar can also help users find their way. The most requested contacts are first, followed by an online form to help users find what they need. Let's click Transit. Each topic has helpful questions to the left that users may be researching, and if not, a number is provided to the right in case they wish to call. A third option is to fill out the form and submit an email if their question is not already there. The user is never in danger of not being able to access assistance. The About page is the 4th page designed to tell the value proposition. It describes the location and beauty of St. John and links the user to arts and culture, development opportunities, and newcomer resources. The mega menu in the middle of the page drops down to reveal quick links to city services and the pages listed above. This is designed to help the user find what they are looking for by categorizing the topics by purpose rather than department. I will show you the City Hall section. The Mayor and Common Council section is where users can watch council meetings and find information about council. Under City Corporation, you can find information about the corporate plans and projects section. This was created so citizens and investors can easily see what the city is working on and support our claim that we are a city that is reinventing itself. These are just some of the highlights of the site and the type of information that can be found. I invite you to click through the new site tomorrow to see the gorgeous photography and information about the city's service area functions and transit section. There is also a community section that describes St. John's history and describes the markets, gardens, community resources, and more provided by citizens, volunteers, or other agencies. So at this point, I'll thank you and turn it over to Stephanie Rackley-Roach.
In Ms. Ransom's presentation, she noted many stakeholders involved in bringing the new stjohn.ca to life. This includes the content being developed and working with our integrated customer service center and leveraging the talents of our GIS team to really make the content dynamic and to ensure that we are meeting our goals of enhanced customer service. I would like to extend a huge thank you to the leadership of Sarah Ranson on this initiative, including the tremendous work of Nancy Moore, Troy McGraw, and Joel Mercer, who were the backbone of this project. The redesign of the city's website meets the primary objectives of improving customer service and promoting growth in St. John. This modern design will enhance the customer experience, ensuring users can get the information they are looking for, access city services, and proudly show all that St. John has to offer. That concludes the presentation and the demonstration, and I'm sure Sarah will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Councillor Strobridge, first up.
I just wanted to say I'm excited for it. Congratulations to everyone who had a hand in it. I tweeted it out over the weekend when I was reading the package. I had said it was going live today, but tomorrow's just as good. I'm looking forward to trying it out, and I even put the thing on Instagram, and I said my St. John because I wanted to get that rolling. But no, it looks really, really good, and like nice work. Good job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just very much echoing what Councillor Strobridge said. Thanks to Sarah and Stephanie and the whole team. Certainly nice to see the community partners at play. And I was reflecting as you're going through the site, Sarah, just thinking, like, what a way to spring out of the past few months of our technical challenges. Like, what a terrific way to say that this is truly us and your words, reinventing ourselves and reinventing not only the vision for the city, but the foot we're putting first as well. So great job. It looks really exciting. I'm excited to check it out tomorrow.
Thank you. That's great.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I didn't see any other questions or hands, I don't believe. So just, yeah, thanks very much. I think we're seeing a real transition, the world that we live in today. We spoke about it a bit earlier, from sort of pushing message out to a very interactive. So I think, the new website looks very exciting. I can't wait to see it. I think it's, the prevalence of our social feeds, the focus on customer service and the work that Ms. Van Ward and others are doing, and to hear that that's integrated into the site, I'm sure it'll provide all kinds of interesting data to you and the team, Sarah, on where are people and what are they most interested in. I'm sure that it provides you an opportunity to add and modify parts of the site as you need to. So huge step forward. I think you said it multiple times and your staff report did. I think our site, before was, and with due respect, I mean, it's the way it was done. This is City Hall and here's where but now this is St. John, quality of life. Look at how beautiful it is. And the only thing I'm afraid of is Mr. Goss's ghost walks, because I don't like ghosts. So other than that, I'm excited by the site and I can't wait to play around with it tomorrow. So, okay, perfect. So just to receive and file, I guess, Council, Thank you, Deputy, and Councillor Sullivan. An enthusiastic and grateful and thank you receive and file, Sarah. So, okay, all in favor? And anyone contrary-minded? Big thumbs up there for you, Sarah. Thank you very much. Okay, that motion is carried. Next item.
13.1, Your Worship, is a report from Finance Committee entitled Safe Restart Funding Program.
Okay, well, as if this night couldn't get any better, the next two items just keep rolling. I'm going to go to Councillor Merrithew, who's also our chairperson of our Finance Committee. Councillor Merrithew.
Thank you, Mayor Darling. I'll read the motion. If I can get someone to move it and second it, then I'll go into some detail, and Commissioner Fudge is with us to answer any questions. So let me read it first, please. Be resolved that Common Council approve the transfer of $3,668,373.08 Safe Restart funding to General Fund Operating Reserve to be utilized to offset potential future revenue losses due to COVID-19. Do I have a thank you, Councillor Reardon and Deputy Mayor?
Yep, perfect.
Thank you. I know that we've read the package, but this is another $3.6 million on top of the $400,000 we've received from transit, and an additional $3.3 million bucks, so about $7.5 million through the province from the federal government for Safe Restart program. So your Finance Committee recommends that we put it away in reserves until we know exactly where we should use it. So with that, again, we'll open it up to Commissioner Fudge if there's any other questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Councillor Strobridge, was your hand still up from the previous item? Okay, you're good. Okay, thank you. Commissioner, sorry, you did have a question?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
No problem. Thank you. Commissioner Fudge, can you just remind, I guess, you know, that's a big number. And can you just remind people of our policy and why reserve, and just give us a little bit of background there in terms of one-time money versus, you know, ongoing revenues?
Absolutely, through your worship. We do have, as part of the long-term financial planning process, a number of financial policies that the council has approved. One of the policies you've approved, actually two of the policies, is one is a reserve policy and another is an operating budget policy. And the intent of both of those policies is to make sure that we never again see a structural deficit in the city of St. John. So with one-time revenues, revenue that's not reoccurring, the policy proclaims that we shouldn't rely upon that type of revenue for everyday, I guess, expenses and services. So with respect to COVID-19 and the funds for COVID-19, I'll remind council that as we've been updating council and finance committee all through 2020, revenues that the city had lost because of COVID-19 ranged anywhere between $2.5 million to $5 million. And we spoke at the finance committee that, you know, the ending of COVID-19, although it looks bright, it's still unwritten. So our intention is to make sure that in 2021 with these funds that the community does not see a disruption of services like it did in 2020, and that these revenues will be used to offset the one-time losses in revenue that may occur because of COVID-19. So with that, that's the premise of the recommendation.
No, perfect. I just think that's a great reminder. You should read that at the beginning of every meeting. That's a great reminder, sir, of where our policy sets us. So, okay, thank you. I don't see any hands, so the recommendation's on the floor, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Okay, perfect. Thank you. That motion is carried. Next item, Common Clerk.
13.2 is another Finance Committee report with respect to assessment gap adjustment.
Thank you, and back to you, Council Member Merrithew and Chairperson Merrithew.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll do the same here. I'll read the recommendation, the motion, and if I can get it moved and seconded, and we'll go in a little more detail. Thank you. So the recommendation reads: Finance Committee recommends Common Council allocate $1 million to the tax rate reduction reserve, and that the reserve be used to reduce the City of St. John's tax rate in the year 2022 by 1.5 cents to $1.77 as a part of the 2022 general operating budget.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Sullivan. Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Norton. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Every hand can, Common Clerk, is there a way that everybody can move it and everybody can second it? Sorry, back to you, Councillor Matthew.
No problems. We see the province of New Brunswick recently announced the elimination of something called PGAP, Property Assessment Gap, that was established in 2013. There were about 102,000 homeowners province-wide that were not paying property tax at the true value, so it's been eliminated. That gave the city of St. John $1 million of recurring revenue. That's very important to say recurring here. And your finance brought us this, and your committee is recommending that we reduce the tax rate and give that back to the city of St. John, and I'll use my words, as a dividend starting in 2022. Again, Commissioner Fudge is here with any other questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor. Okay, questions, comments? No? Okay, sorry, Councillor Sullivan, go ahead.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just quickly, I'm sure Commissioner Fudge would have got to this. But just a reminder for folks, this is part of working our long-term financial plan. The stretch goal in our long-term financial plan was to get at our tax rate so that we would be more competitive as a municipality. When people are looking to come to St. John, we have all the amenities, we have wonderful places to live, we have great recreation, we have great arts and culture in the city, and now we're addressing the price to be here. So congratulations to the finance crew for all of the policies that were laid before this that allow this to happen.
Yeah, well said. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Strobridge.
Thank you. Just so there's not any doubt out there, this will continue on, right? Because I know the motion says for 2022, but it's 2022 and keeping going beyond that, right?
That's correct, Councillor Strobridge. This is recurring revenue, so it will continue on.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Just a couple of quick comments. I didn't see any other hands. So just quickly, look, Council, in 2016, I remember very early, or the fall, I think, if I remember correctly, we were musing about this, a tax rate reduction. I think everybody wanted to do it. We didn't have our feet underneath us yet. We were facing a lot of headwinds. And to me, as I described in the paper, I think this is the icing on the cake of what it looks like of 5 years of grinding, difficult work, focusing on growth, financial policies, long-term financial plan, restructuring, and what discipline looks like. And here we are. I saw someone suggest on the weekend it was some kind of election ploy. It's not an election ploy. It's living our long-term financial plan that this council voted to put in place. It's the first step to start to see costs that are too high to the taxpayer ratcheted down. And I certainly hope anyone that intends on running for council in this upcoming election is going to make a full commitment to living the long-term financial plan and not making a bunch of promises to break something that it took us 100 years to have in the first place. So a very exciting night. I'm going to say the same thing I did at finance. Our staff, our commissioner of finance, our city manager, the leadership team, the finance committee, and Councillor Merrithew doesn't he's a very humble guy, but he has been a steady, tremendous leader, 9 years now, being the tough guy on finances, saying things that sometimes nobody else wanted to say, speaking his mind, even when, gets him in trouble on occasion, but a steady hand at the tiller, if you will, at the finance committee, steadfast, working behind the scenes day in and day out. And this is a whole bunch of people that have worked on this. And I'm so proud of this night, subject to the vote, of course. I'm so proud of this night. And Mr. Premier, we need you and the local ministers and MLAs to keep their promise on comprehensive tax reform. If we could change it, if I could swipe this pen and change it, we would change it. So we have a commitment from our Premier for comprehensive tax reform. The future of this city is so bright with tax reform, with regional cost sharing, and we keep on going and following our plans. There's nowhere but up from here, Council. So it's a historic night, I think, for Council. 12 years, you've held the tax rate. Tonight, we start heading in the right direction. So I feel like I could cry, honestly. But anyway, with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? That is a unanimous vote of Council tonight. It's an historic night here, folks. Congratulations. And yeah.
Yeah, will you just give me just a couple of minutes, please? Just to
please go ahead.
Publicly thank staff who, we've been pretty close to 5 years coming in the end here, and these people have advised Council very, very well. I want to thank my mates in finance. They had the good sense to listen to these intelligent people. Without them, I don't believe we'd be where we are right now with, more reserves, lower tax rates, and a great deal of development on the way. So thank you, everyone.
Well said, and I don't know what's right or not right, but I mean, through this election, we're going to be watching. I'm certainly going to be asking people lots of questions when they make lots of promises. So we are on the right and heading in the right direction here. So well said, everybody. Thank you. And next item, please, Common Clerk.
Your Worship, we have 3 letters under general correspondence. The first one's 15.1. It's a thank you letter with respect to Jervis Bay Ross Memorial Park.
Okay, thank you. The recommendation is receive and file. Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And thank you very much for the letter. Okay, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Anybody contrary-minded? The motion is carried. Thank you. Next item.
15.2 is a letter from a citizen with respect to street renaming. Recommendation is to receive for information.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hickey, thank you. Councillor Reardon, thank you. And it just speaks to, just as a reminder, folks, we will be working through a process here, over the next year to deal exactly with these types of, issues around renaming and having a policy in place. So thank you for your letter. On the question, all those in favor? Thank you. Anybody contrary-minded? The motion is carried. Thank you. Next item.
15.3 is a letter from Rogue Coffee with respect to an opposition to parking ticket increase.
Okay, thank you. Motion is to receive and file. Thank you. Moved by Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Merrithew. Thanks. Just again, always, and thank you for that feedback and concern. I will say that, the city is investing significantly. I think about $35,000 from memory and trying to support the Uptown right now. We know it isn't easy times, and I'm perhaps oversimplifying. I use hotspot, drop a toonie in the box. We don't want to give you a ticket. Anyway, we are investing to continue to support and the Uptown businesses and please support local, shop local, and put your toonie in the box or use hotspot and you won't get a ticket. So on the question of receive and file, please vote now. Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Motion's carried. Thank you. Next item.
Your Worship, and now are the 6 items from Committee of the Whole. First one is 17.1, and this is a resolution with a recommendation with respect to Funday Key option agreement. Would you like me to read these out, Your Worship?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is that the final version of the ground lease contemplated at Schedule B, the option to lease agreement entered into on December 19, 2019 between the City and Funday Key Developments be approved by the City in the form as attached to M&C 55 and presented to Committee of the Whole at its February 22, 2021 meeting pursuant to Section 2.2 of said option to lease agreement.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor, thank you. Seconded by Councillor McKenzie. Thank you. On the question, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Okay, not seeing anyone. The motion's carried. Next item.
17.2, Your Worship, is a dividend agreement recommendation, and it's resolved that the city enter into an agreement with Regional Development Corporation for the repayment of the Regional Development Corporation's contribution towards the construction of the seawall at Funday Key site in the form as presented to Committee of the Whole at its February 22nd meeting, and that the city enter into a dividend agreement with Funday Key Developments, Inc. for the repayment of the Regional Development Corporation's contribution towards the construction of the seawall on Funday Key site in the form as presented to Committee of the Whole at its February 22nd meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. To a mover of that recommendation, please. Councillor Hickey, Councillor Reardon, thank you. City Manager, I'm just anticipating that some folks, I don't know if you will need a technical briefing, but it's a lot of detail there. And do you have a comment perhaps on if anyone watching has questions, they call through to Lisa or yourself or?
I think I can summarize this in 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, please.
For the provincial part of the funding for Funday Key, there is an arrangement whereby the developer would, under certain circumstances, pay back a portion of that money through a dividend to the province. What we have put in place is the developer will not do that directly to the province. The developer will do that to us. We will act as a flow through and flow that money to the province. So this has nothing to do with city finances or city contributions to the project. This is a possible dividend flow, and I stress possible dividend flow to the province from the developer with us acting as the flow through.
Thank you, City Manager. That was, I'm glad I called on you. That was perfect. Okay, thank you. The recommendation's on the floor. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary minded? Thank you. The motion is carried. Next item.
17.3 is Regional Economic Development Members and Funding Agreements. And the motion would be resolved that 1, approve members agreements and funding agreement as attached in Schedule A and B between the City of St. John and the new Regional Economic Development Agency for Greater St. John to support delivery of economic development services, and 2, authorize Mayor and Clerk to execute the said agreements.
Thank you. Moved by Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Reardon again. City Manager, did you want to provide again any context? Just
25 seconds or less.
Thank you.
The prospectus lays out what the new Regional Economic Development Agency should do and the municipal contributions, but the prospectus is not a legally binding document. What Council has approved this evening is the members agreement and the corresponding funding agreement, which mirror the descriptions in the prospectus, but they are the legally binding documents. The members agreement has already been approved by the board of directors of the new agency and is now in the process of being approved by every council within the region. This council is doing it this evening, and the funding agreement is also being approved by every council within the region. So it is just giving life to the prospectus, but in a legally binding way.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary minded? Okay, thank you. Councillor Armstrong is contrary minded. Okay, thank you. Next item, Common Clerk.
17.4, Your Worship, is a Committee of the Whole recommendation with respect to settlement of a labor matter. And the resolution would be resolved that the full and final settlement of a labor matter involving a former employee of the city previously identified by employee number blank in exchange for the lump sum payment of $80,000 less the withholding of applicable statutory deductions and subject to the execution by said former employee and QP Local 486 of full and final release in form that is satisfactory to the General Counsel or her designate.
Okay, thank you. The mover, please. Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Hickey. Thank you. On the question, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Next item.
17.5, Your Worship, is the Committee of the Whole recommendation with respect to Immutable Backup Storage Solution AWS Enterprise Agreement. Motion is resolved that the city enter into AWS Enterprise Agreement and Amendment number 1 to AWS Enterprise Agreement with Amazon Web Services, Inc. to provide virtual server instances and cloud-based storage in the form that was attached to MNC 2021-02, and Mayor and Clerk be authorized to execute any necessary contract documents.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. To a mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Reardon, thank you. On the question, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Thank you. Immutable. It's the word of the year, immutable. Thank you. And I think our last item.
Your Worship, the last item is with respect to a council vacancy. And this one is a little bit longer. I'll read out the resolution. Whereas, or did you want me to read it, Your Worship?
Yes,
or
yes please.
Okay. So it reads, whereas Ward 2 Councillor Sean Casey has been absent from the following 4 consecutive regular meetings of council, namely January 11th, 2021, January 28th, 2021, February 8th, 2021, and February 22nd, 2021. Whereas Councillor Casey did not indicate in his absences were a result of illness, whereas Common Council did not authorize Councillor Casey's absences, whereas Section 51G of Local Governance Act provides that a vacancy results in a council when a member is absent for 4 or more consecutive regular meetings of the council, except in the case of illness or with authorization of council, whereas Section 51(1) of Local Governance Act provides that a council shall by resolution within 2 months after a vacancy arises declare any vacancy resulting under Section 51(b) to H. Therefore be it resolved that St. John Common Council declares a vacancy on council in Ward 2 of the City of St. John effective February 23rd, 2021 as a result of Councillor Casey having been absent for 4 consecutive regular meetings of council without authorization of council.
Okay, thank you. To a mover, Deputy Mayor, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Merrithew, thank you. Okay, I'll call the question. On the question, all those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Okay, thank you. The motion is carried. I just make a comment, I guess, that, from my perspective, decisions like that aren't easy. This is legislation that's in place, and I believe we have a duty to protect the integrity of the office and have council members present to fulfill their duties. So it's a legislative process, and that's where we found ourselves tonight, and not a decision made easily, but a decision laid out, quite frankly, by legislation. So, okay, thank you very much. I think that is the last item, Common Clerk.
That's the end, Your Worship. Yes. Okay.
317 pages of information tonight. Historic night. Reserve to lower tax rates for $50 million capital program. Moving the Funday Key project along. Moving ahead with consultations for public spaces related to that project, and a whole bunch of other, a new website, and a whole bunch of other really fantastic work tonight, all done by our city staff who work diligently day in, day out to serve the community. So thank you for that. Another very, very productive meeting, and we need a motion to adjourn unless anyone wants to stay for the rest of the night. Okay, Deputy Mayor, Councillor McKenzie, thank you very much. And all those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Thank you very much, and stay safe and wear your masks and follow the protocols, everybody. We are doing quite well, but we can't let our guards down, as they say. Thank you very much.